Hello, so in this video I'm going to talk to you about my experience job hunting while being deaf. So you know how society always tells you that you're gonna go to school, you're gonna graduate, then you're gonna go to college, or you're gonna work, or you're gonna do both, and then you move on from there in life. So I had that mindset because that was fed to me constantly when I was in school. I graduated high school in 2009, and I actually took a year off from that because I'm tired. I've done all this school and now I just want to rest. So I did that. I also took that time to try to find what I could possibly do. During that year, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what skills I had. I just felt really down about myself, and this was back when I wasn't as confident as I am now as a deaf person. Like, I didn't find deaf culture bad then or any of that. I was the only deaf person that I knew, really. And yeah, so eventually once I finally got my license, I got my license late, which is also a reason why I didn't do any job hunting at that time or anything. I went and started looking for jobs, and all I could think about at the time was, applying to stuff like McDonald's or Walmart, Taco Bell, basically your basic fast food places and retail stores that don't really require a lot of experience. Those are the jobs that you apply for so you can get the experience to move on higher. So I did that, and I was applying to these kinds of jobs for 4 years, until I finally got a job interview at Chipotle. If you don't know what Chipotle is, that is like a Tex-Mex restaurant, it's kind of like Subway, but for Tex-Mex food. And I finally got an email, 4 years later, I finally got an email, hey, come in at this time, we're gonna have an interview. Okay, awesome. And what I did do is I actually replied to the email letting them know that I'm deaf, so that way we can try to figure out how to communicate before actually getting there and making it this big surprise. So I was like, hi. When I got there, I was like, hi, did you get my email? And they're like, what email are you talking about? So nobody knew that I was deaf, and I had to explain it to them, and I had to explain, hey, can you look at me? I need you to look at me. This is a very loud, noisy environment. I can't read lips very well. And yeah, I speak, but that has nothing to do with my level of hearing loss, right? So we get there, and the interview was honestly a disaster. She had a very strong accent, first of all, and then she would also be turning her head, if I'm sitting right here and the woman is sitting over here, and then she's looking down, and if you're deaf too, you're hard of hearing, deaf, whatever, if you have hearing loss like me, then you know how frustrating this is. Because I was like, hi, I'm not understanding what you're saying. I don't want to mess this interview up. It took 4 years to get an interview, right? Because when I was putting on applications, on half the applications I didn't put that I was deaf. On half of them I did put that I was deaf. And either way, I didn't get an interview at these places. And so, I was like, hello, please look at me, and she's like, oh, but she just kept doing it over and over again, and it actually got to a point where I was almost not literally climbing over the table, but I was kind of, leaning forward so I could try to look at her whenever she would move her head, because I didn't know what else to do, because they don't get it. These employers just don't get it sometimes, right? When you have issues when trying to get an interpreter or a cart or any of that stuff, and you're just like, hi, I am deaf, or I have hearing loss, I am hard of hearing, whatever, I need you to look at me, because that is the best way that I'm going to be able to understand what you're saying. And even then, it might not be perfect, but it's going to be better than if you were just constantly moving your head around. So I could tell that she was probably getting really frustrated with me, because I was constantly asking her to repeat herself, and she wasn't gonna write anything down for me. And needless to say, I did not get a second interview. She said, okay, well, if you get an interview again, if you get a second interview, then we'll contact you tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. And I got an email that said you will not be having a second interview. So okay, but yeah, so it took, after 4 years of applying to normal retail jobs, whatever, I thought, this isn't working. For some people it could work. For me, it's just not working. I didn't know what to do. So I moved on to YouTube. Some of you probably recognize me from YouTube. And I work for DTV News now with Deaf Professional Arts Network, you know, DPAN. And I am a news writer. I write the news for them. And I have my own business, you know, it's a startup kind of thing with public speaking and what have you. So this is to the employers out there that if you've got a deaf applicant that's coming for an interview, work with them. We're willing to meet you halfway with anything that we need, or even if what you need, you know, right back and forth. If the deaf person is oral, like I grew up being oral, right? Hence me talking right now. I can talk, you can type or write, you know, we just meet halfway. Because deaf people are trying to find jobs too. We all have bills to pay. We all have stuff that we need to do. We gotta live, and that comes with having a job. But it's very difficult to get a job if the employers are not willing to work with us. So, I guess if you've had any struggles with finding jobs, you know, especially in your younger years when you know this stuff and it's just really overwhelming, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you later. Bye.